You think you're lost, but what if you're not? What if you've just been following a voice that was never yours to begin with? There's a conversation happening inside you right now. Maybe you've noticed it. Maybe you haven't. It's subtle, persistent, always there. It tells you you're behind, that you're running out of time, that everyone else has figured it out, and you're still here, standing in the same place you were a year ago, maybe 5 years ago, wondering when your life will finally begin. This voice knows exactly what to say to keep you small. It reminds you of every mistake you've ever made, every chance you didn't take, every person who didn't choose you, every version of yourself you thought you'd be by now, but aren't. And the strange thing is you believe it. You believe it because it sounds like you. It uses your tone, your memories, your fears. But here's what most people never realize. That voice isn't you. It's the echo of everything you've ever been told, everything you've ever absorbed, every expectation that was placed on you before you even knew who you were. It's your parents' worries, your teachers' judgments, your culture's definitions of success, your friends' opinions, the world's loud insistence that you should be more, do more, prove more. And somewhere along the way, you started repeating it back to yourself. You internalized it so deeply that you forgot it wasn't originally yours. Now it runs on autopilot, a background program, a script you didn't write but can't seem to stop performing. And the exhausting part, you're not even lost. You're just listening to a voice that keeps telling you that you are. Let me tell you something about the human mind. It's not designed to know the truth. It's designed to keep you safe. And safety to the mind means predictability, familiarity, control. So when you step toward something unknown, something that actually calls to your soul, the mind panics. It doesn't know what will happen if you follow that path. It can't guarantee the outcome. So it does what it does best. It creates a story that sounds rational, protective, even wise. You're not ready yet. You don't have what it takes. This isn't the right time. You'll fail. You'll embarrass yourself. You'll lose everything. And because this voice uses logic, because it sounds so reasonable, you assume it's telling the truth. But it's not. It's just telling you what it thinks will keep you from taking a risk. The Sufis have a teaching about this. They say the ego is like a donkey. It's not evil. It's not trying to destroy you. It's just stubborn. It wants to stay on the familiar path, even if that path leads nowhere. And if you're not careful, you'll spend your entire life listening to the donkey, convinced that its fear is your intuition. But there's another voice, quieter, deeper, steadier. It doesn't shout. It doesn't argue with the loud one. It doesn't try to convince you of anything. It just knows. It's the voice that said, yes, before you talked yourself out of it. The one that felt a pull toward something, before your mind created 10 reasons why it wouldn't work. It's the voice that exists beneath thought, beneath judgment, beneath fear. Some people call it intuition. Others call it the soul, the true self, consciousness, the witness. Alan Watts called it the real you, the awareness that's been watching your whole life unfold, completely untouched by the drama of it. And here's the thing. You already know which voice is which. You can feel the difference. The loud voice tightens your chest, makes your thoughts race, creates a sense of urgency, of panic, of, I need to figure this out right now. The quiet voice softens you, opens you, brings you back to your body, to this moment, to what actually is. The loud voice lives in the future, in the past, in the land of what if and I should have. The quiet voice only exists now. And the reason you feel lost is because you've been trying to navigate your life with the wrong compass. You've been asking the loud voice for directions, and the loud voice doesn't know where you're going. It only knows where it's afraid you'll end up. So what do? You start listening differently, not by silencing the loud voice you can't. It's part of being human. It will always be there, trying to protect you in its clumsy, anxious way. But you stop treating it like the authority. You stop asking it for permission. You thank it for trying to keep you safe, and then you turn your attention somewhere else. Here's a practice. The next time you feel stuck, confused, paralyzed by a decision, pause. Don't try to think your way out of it. Don't make a list. Don't ask for more opinions. Just sit with the question. Let it settle. And notice which voice is answering. Is it the one that's afraid? That's performing? That's trying to get it, right? Or is it the one that already knows, even if it can't explain why? The quiet voice doesn't give you a 10-step plan. It doesn't hand you certainty. It just gives you a direction, a feeling, a gentle yes or not yet. And if you've been ignoring it for years, it might take time to hear it clearly again. But it's there. It's always been there, waiting for you to stop asking the donkey for directions and start trusting the part of you that already knows the way. You're not lost. You never were. You've just been listening to a voice that convinced you that you are. But the truth is so much simpler than the story. You already know what to do. You've always known. And yet, knowing this changes nothing. Does it? You can hear me say these words. You can feel the truth in them. You can even nod along, thinking, yes, that's exactly what I needed to hear. But tomorrow, the same voice will be back, telling you the same story. And you'll believe it all over again. So why is that? Why do we keep listening to the voice that makes us suffer? Because confusion is comfortable. I know that sounds strange, but stay with me. Confusion gives you a reason not to act. As long as you're still figuring it out, you don't have to take responsibility for what you actually want. As long as you're not sure yet, you don't have to face the possibility of failure, or success, or change. Confusion is a holding pattern, a way of staying in motion without actually moving. And the mind loves it, because the mind's job isn't to help you grow. Its job is to keep you alive, and alive to the primitive brain means unchanged. Every time you think about doing something new, quitting the job, ending the relationship, starting the project, moving to the new city, your brain scans for danger, and it always finds some, because the unknown is, by definition, dangerous. Not because it will actually hurt you, but because it's unpredictable. So the mind creates confusion as a defense mechanism. It floods you with questions. But what if it doesn't work out? What if I regret it? What if I'm making a mistake? And here's the trick, these aren't real questions. They're stalling tactics. Because if they were real questions, you'd be able to answer them. But you can't. Because they're not about information. They're about fear. And fear doesn't need answers. It needs reassurance. It needs certainty. It needs a guarantee that everything will be okay. But life doesn't offer that. And so you stay confused. not because you don't know, but because knowing would require you to choose. And choosing would require you to let go of the illusion that you can have everything, be everything. Keep all your options open forever. There's a Zen story about a monk who goes to his master and says, "I'm confused. I don't know what to do with my life." The master picks up a cup of tea and starts pouring. He pours until the cup is full. Then he keeps pouring. The tea spills over the sides, onto the table, onto the floor. The monk jumps back and says, "Stop, the cup is full. It can't hold any more." The master sets down the teapot and says, "Exactly. You come to me with a cup that's already full of opinions, expectations, fears, ideas about who you should be. How can I give you anything when there's no space?" Confusion isn't the absence of answers. It's the presence of too many voices, too many shoulds, too many what-ifs, too many versions of yourself trying to speak at once. And the only way through is not to figure it out. It's to empty the cup, to stop filling your mind with more information, more advice, more podcasts, more books, more strategies, and start listening to what's already there underneath all the noise. The quiet voice doesn't need convincing. It doesn't need 5 more signs from the universe. It already knows. But you've been drowning it out with confusion, because confusion lets you avoid the one thing you're actually afraid of. Commitment. Not to a person, not to a job, but to yourself, to your own knowing, to the risk of being wrong and choosing anyway. So here's what I want you to try. For one day, just one, stop asking yourself what you should do. Stop Googling. Stop asking friends. Stop journaling about it for the 100th time. Just act as if you already know. Pretend, just for a moment, that the answer is obvious. What would you do? Where would you go? What would you say? Don't think about whether it's the right answer. Don't weigh the pros and cons. Just notice what arises when you stop performing confusion. You might be surprised. You might realize that you've known all along. You've just been waiting for permission, for certainty, for the fear to go away. But it won't. The fear doesn't go away before the choice. It goes away after, when you stop feeding it with indecision. Confusion is a trap you set for yourself, not because you're weak, not because you're broken, but because some part of you thinks that if you stay confused long enough, life will make the choice for you. It won't. Life will wait, patiently, endlessly, until you decide to stop asking and start walking. But what if you've been listening so long, you can't tell the difference anymore? What if the loud voice and the quiet voice have blurred together, and you genuinely don't know which one is real? What if you've spent so many years ignoring your intuition that you're not even sure you have one? Then you start here. The quiet voice isn't mystical. It's not reserved for monks or sages, or people who meditate for hours every day. It's built into you. It's the part of you that knows when someone is lying, even when their words sound convincing. The part that feels uneasy in a room, even when nothing is visibly wrong. The part that pulls you towards certain people, certain places, certain paths, not because they make logical sense, but because they feel right. You've experienced this before. You've had moments where you just knew. Maybe it was a decision you made in an instant, without thinking. That turned out to be exactly what you needed. Maybe it was a person you trusted immediately, even though you'd just met. Maybe it was a moment of clarity in the middle of chaos, where everything suddenly became simple. That wasn't luck. That was the quiet voice. And the reason it's quiet isn't because it's weak. It's because it doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to convince you, or argue with you, or drown out the other voices. It just waits for the moment when you're ready to listen. Here's the difference. The loud voice speaks in sentences. The quiet voice speaks in sensations. The loud voice says, you should do this because it makes sense, because it's practical, because people will approve. The quiet voice doesn't say anything. It just makes your body feel open, light, aligned, or it makes your body contract, tighten, recoil. And if you've been living in your head your whole life, which most of us have, you've learned to ignore your body. You've learned to override it, to push through the tightness, to rationalize the discomfort, to explain away the pull. You've been taught that thinking is more reliable than feeling, but it's not. Your thoughts can lie to you. They're shaped by conditioning, by fear, by what you think you're supposed to want. Your body can't. Your body is honest. It knows when you're forcing something, when you're betraying yourself, when you're choosing based on fear instead of truth. The Sufis say the heart has a knowing that the mind will never understand. Not the physical heart, but the energetic one. The one that sits in your chest and responds to life before your thoughts can catch up. And if you want to hear the quiet voice, you don't learn to think differently. You learn to feel differently. To notice the difference between the tightness of fear and the tightness of resistance. Between the openness of excitement and the openness of surrender. Between the pull of desire and the pull of alignment. These are subtle, but they're real. And the more you pay attention, the clearer they become. Here's how you practice. Start small. Don't try to use this for the big decisions yet. Start with the tiny ones. What do you actually want for breakfast? Not what you should eat. Not what's healthy. Not what you always have. What does your body want? Pause. Feel into it. Notice what arises. Do you want to go for a walk or stay in? Do you want to call that friend or let it wait? Do you want to keep scrolling or put the phone down? These seem like trivial questions, but they're not, because every time you honor the quiet voice in the small things, you strengthen your ability to hear it in the big things. You're training yourself to trust that there's a knowing inside you that doesn't need to be explained or justified. And over time, it becomes less and less subtle. You start to feel it clearly. The difference between, I think I should, and I know I need to, between this makes sense and this feels true. Between the voice that performs and the voice that simply is. The quiet voice has been with you your whole life. It's the part of you that existed before anyone told you who to be. It doesn't need you to become someone else to hear it. It just needs you to stop pretending you don't. So maybe you've been listening to the wrong voice. Maybe for years. Maybe for your whole life. And maybe, just maybe, you're starting to hear the other one now. The one that's been waiting. What happens next? This is the part no one talks about. The part where you realize you've been living someone else's life. Not because anyone forced you, but because you didn't know there was another option. You didn't know you were allowed to want something different, to feel something different, to be something different. And now that you can hear the quiet voice, everything becomes both simpler and harder. Simpler because you finally know what to do. Harder because doing it means letting go of the story you've been telling yourself. It means disappointing people, changing direction, admitting you were wrong. It means standing in the unknown without a map, without approval, without the comfort of certainty. And that's terrifying, because the loud voice will still be there. It will tell you you're being selfish, reckless, knave. It will remind you of everything you have to lose. And some days you'll listen to it. Some days you'll go back to the familiar voice, the familiar path, the familiar suffering. And that's okay. Because this isn't about perfection. It's about awareness. It's about noticing more and more often which voice you're following, and choosing more and more often to follow the one that actually knows. There's a word in Persian, Del. It doesn't translate perfectly, but it's something like the heart mind, the place where feeling and knowing meet, where intuition and wisdom are one. The Sufis say that when you live from your Del, you stop searching for yourself, because you realize you were never lost. You were just looking in the wrong direction. You were asking the mind to tell you who you are. But the mind doesn't know. It only knows who you've been, who you're supposed to be, who you're afraid of becoming. The heart knows who you are, not the story, not the identity, not the roles you play, the essence, the part of you that doesn't change when everything else does. And when you start listening to that, really listening, everything shifts. Not because your life suddenly becomes easy, but because you stop fighting it. You stop trying to force yourself into shapes that don't fit. You stop performing for an audience that doesn't even exist. You stop waiting for permission to live the life you actually want. And you start trusting that the quiet voice, the one that's been guiding you all along, knows exactly where you need to go, even if you don't, especially if you don't. So here's the last thing I'll offer you. You don't need to change your entire life today. You don't need to quit your job, leave your relationship, move across the world. You just need to start honoring the quiet voice in one small way. One choice, one moment, one tiny act of alignment. Maybe it's saying no to something you've always said yes to. Maybe it's saying yes to something you've always been too afraid to try. Maybe it's just sitting in silence for 5 minutes and noticing what arises when you stop filling the space with noise. That's enough, because the quiet voice doesn't ask for grand gestures. It just asks to be heard. And every time you listen, even in the smallest way, you send a message to yourself. I trust you. I believe you. I'm coming home. You were never lost. You were just listening to a voice that told you that you were. But now you know there's another voice, quieter, truer, steadier, and it's been calling you home this whole time. All you have to do is listen and follow, one quiet step at a time.